Welcome to Muscles and Magic the Gathering. I'm Bobby Maximus. I represent the Muscles, and these cards are Magic the Gathering. Now, normally I go over my decks, but today I want to talk about the hottest commander in Magic today, Ketramose, the New Dawn. It's a new card from the Ether Drift set, and everyone wants to know, how do I build a Ketramose deck, myself included. So Ketramose, first of all, it's a legendary creature, and it's a god. It's got a fairly low casting cost. One colorless, one plains, one swamp. It is menace, lifelink, and indestructible. Ketramose can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. And whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose a life. So when I first saw this card, I thought, what a great way to use all these exile cards that I've been saving up. Now, I do have a deck that's based on exile, and I'm looking for it right now, and it is my March of the Machine deck, and it is commanded. It is headed up by Atraxa Grand Unifier. That's a beautiful version of that card, by the way. But for Atraxa Grand Unifier, it's got Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, and Lifelink. And when it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, one of the ways I built Atraxa, it's got a massive casting cost, right? It's going to cost you 7 mana to get this thing out. And so what I needed to figure out was a way to constantly exile this, bring it back, exile it, bring it back. And that would allow me to trigger Atraxa multiple times. So a lot of the cards that I used in this Atraxa deck, I would use in this Ketramose deck. But I ran into a problem. You've seen my collection. I've got over 50 commander decks. And they're all decks that I actually own and live and breathe in real time. So I've been doing some deck tech today. Here's my March of the Machine deck. That's the Atraxa deck. Here is my Kalia deck. And these decks all, if you just look, they live in real time. They exist. So you come over to my house to play. You can grab this deck. You can grab this deck. They are good to go. I don't transfer cards between decks. And so what happens is I end up with not enough cards. Like, I would love to take, for example, an Agatha's Soul Cauldron and put it in my Ketramose deck. A Grand Abolisher, I would love to put that in my Ketramose deck. I would like to take a Drannith Magistrate and put it in my Ketramose deck. I'd like to put an Esper Sentinel in there. But those cards are already used in other decks. So what I decided to do today, I wanted to do some budget cards that you may have laying around that you could put in Ketramose that will do some decent work, because I really want to build around this deck and I don't want to take my other decks apart. So I've got 10 cards that you can use on a budget that you can put in your Ketramose deck. Now, I had to go through some of my sets, through some of my commons, through some of my binders to find these, but they do fit. And I was looking for one thing today: exile. Cards that help me exile other cards, either from the battlefield or the graveyard. And that's what I do when I build decks. When I do any type of deck tech, I look at the card, I read the words on it, and try to figure out what cards have synergy with this commander. And then I put the deck together, play it a couple of times, do a couple of play tests, and then, maybe this doesn't work. Maybe this works a little better. Maybe this works a little better. Now, the cool thing is I'm going to feature 10 cards today. I'll show you a couple of extras too if you stay tuned for the end of the episode. But I'm going to feature 10 cards, and you can get all these cards for under $12.87. So when I say there's a budget here, there is a big budget. So without further ado, Ketramose inclusions on a budget. So the first card we're going to look at is from Cauldron, and it's Egon, God of Death. Legendary creature god, Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. That will trigger Ketramose. And if you can't, sacrifice Egon and draw a card. So if you can, at least you're getting some card draw. And listen, in Magic the Gathering Commander format, there's no such thing as too much card draw. Like, I want as much card draw as possible. This is one of those cool double-sided cards. It's also got the Throne of Death. You can put that out if you want. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. A great way to fill your deck if you've got other cards with Ketramose that will exile stuff from your graveyard. And then you can exile a creature card from your graveyard and you could draw a card. So this is just a really good, useful card from the Cauldron set. A lot of people forget about this one, but it would be great in the Ketramose deck. The next is Redemption Arc, and this came from Murders at Karlov Manor. I really think Murders at Karlov Manor was a completely underrated set, by the way. A lot of people weren't that high on it, but I absolutely loved it. It's enchantment, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has indestructible and is goaded, and then it's got an ability which allows me to exile the enchanted creature. Now, both these cards, Egon and Redemption Arc, they go for 18 cents a piece. And I like enchantments that make my creatures indestructible, and especially too because it acts as a bit of a ruse. To get rid of an indestructible creature, you've got to use exile, right? Like you can't use like a destroy card, like an assassin's trophy, for example. Well, if someone has to use their indestructible on, or not their indestructible to exile on this indestructible, well then this kind of saves this guy. So I really like Redemption Arc. And for 18 cents, it's great. The next is from Baldur's Gate, and it's Abdel Adrian, Gorian's Ward. And when Abdel Adrian, Gorian's Ward enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until it leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way. So a great way to get some creature tokens on the board, but also a great way to play the exile game. And that card goes for about 33 cents. Parting Gust. Parting Gust you could buy for 53 cents. Bloomborough was really underrated as well. This is an instant. You gift a tapped fish and then exile target non-token creature. If the creature wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. So super cheap, great include for the Ketramose deck. Soul Partition from the Brothers War. Exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. And that card you can get for $1. You see, there's a lot of cards. If you run out of the Grand Abolishers, the Drannith Magistrates, the Currency Converter is another huge card I would put in my deck. And I just so happen to have an extra copy of Currency Converter laying around, so it will go in my Ketramose deck. But if you don't have these, like I said, are some great includes you can include for a cheap price. The Abyssal Harvester from Foundations. Love this card. Exile target creature card from a graveyard that was put there this turn. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. Then exile all other nightmare tokens you control. Little bit of graveyard hate for the other person, so I like that. That card you can get for about $1.30. Sinu, Keen-Eyed Protector from one of my favorite sets of all time, Assassin's Creed. It's got flying. It's got vigilance. You can exile Sinu, Keen-Eyed Protector. You gain 2 life and scry 2. I like lifelink in this deck too. Like if I was going to build this deck the right way, I would also make sure I had a ton of lifelink in here to deal with the losing of life from all the card draw I'm going to do. But I would also have a Bolas's Citadel. I've talked about this combo before on my other videos. Every chance I get, I use a Bolas Citadel, I use a Sensei's Divining Top, and I use an Ether Flux Reservoir. So those would be must includes in this deck too. But again, we're doing this on a budget, so we're sticking to the budget cards. But Sinu, Keen-Eyed Protector, with a legendary creature you control attacks and isn't blocked. If Sinu is exiled, put it onto the battlefield attacking. That card you can get for about $1.76. Charming Prince. A lot of people don't know this card from the Throne of Eldraine. When it enters the battlefield, choose one. Scry 2, you gain 3 life, or exile another target creature you own. Return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. Love this card. I use it in my Mad King deck. It's Kenrith the Return King. I use it with the Dockside Extortionist. I love it. I know Dockside's banned, but it's not going to be soon. Free Dockside. That's a message to Wizards. But the Charming Prince, you can get that for $1.82. Lazelle's Acrobatics. This card is from Baldur's Gate. The version of the card that I have is a little more expensive. I pulled it from my set. It's actually not a complete set anymore because I've torn it apart to build decks. You can imagine with 50 plus decks, it's a lot of cards, right? But you can get a cheaper version of this card. But anyway, you exile on all non-token creatures you control and roll a d20. 1 to 9, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. 10 to 20, return them to the battlefield immediately under their owner's control, then exile them again. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's step at the beginning of the next end step. So great card to trigger Ketramose. And then from Eternal Masters, the Relic of Progenitus. Target player exiles a card from his or her graveyard, and then exile Relic of Progenitus, exile all cards from all graveyards, and draw a card. This card goes for, you're looking at about $3.78, so another great budget include. So those are the first 10 cards that I wanted to show. Again, we've got Egon, the God of Death, Redemption Arc, Abdel Adrian, we have the Parting Gust, we have the Soul Partition, we have the Abyssal Harvester, we have Sinu Keen-Eyed Protector, we have the Charming Prince, we have Lae'zel's Acrobatics, and then we have the Relic of Progenitus. But we are not done yet. I promised you some bonus content. So here we go with what I'm going to call the not-so-budget cards. Now, they're still kind of budget cards, right? Like if you go to buy a Grand Abolisher, I don't know, I should look it up on my other computer here. I don't know what that card goes for these days. It's like 25 bucks. So I just had to get a little drink. I've got a workout coming up, hence the name Magic and Muscles. I work out. I play Magic the Gathering, but I've got a workout coming up, so I'm drinking my pre-workout. But I digress. A Grand Abolisher is what, like 28 bucks? A Drannith Magistrate's 28 bucks. You want an Imperial Seal, you're looking at 80 bucks. You're looking at a Demonic Tutor. Like these would be all auto includes if I was trying to do this the right way. I'd probably put a Yawgmoth's Will in there just because I can. Like I would load this deck up, an Esper Sentinel, like I said earlier. Those are all expensive cards, right? So that's certainly not on a budget, but these are cards I kind of consider to be on a budget. And these are the bonus cards, all right? And these cards, for 5 cards, you can get them for $35.56. So we got Sunfall, a salty card, but one of my favorites of all time. Exile all creatures. Incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. I really like this as a board wipe because not only do I wipe all the creatures out, but I get something back myself, all right? And if there's enough creatures on the board, those little incubator creatures can be super strong. So that goes for anywhere between $3 and $4. The next is Eerie Interlude, all right? And this is from Shadows over Innistrad. Exile any number of target creatures to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Great card. You can get that for about $5. Love it. These two, by the way, are in my March of the Machine deck. Just had a couple of extra copies laying around. This card goes hard in this deck. And whether you're on a budget or not, Philia belongs here. Philia Exuberant Shepherd. Whenever Philia Exuberant Shepherd attacks, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent. At the beginning of the next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it entered under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Philia. These double-sided cards, I absolutely love them. The Bogart Trawler. When Bogart Trawler enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. With the amount of people that try to fish stuff in their graveyard, this card will never be bad in any deck. And if you don't like it, you can always use it to get a land. And I know that paying 3 land or 3 life for a land can seem steep, but that has saved me in some games. Philia, by the way, is $6.60. This you can get for between $7 and $8. So we got those cards. And then finally, the big one. This is the most expensive card I'm featuring today. This is the Teleportation Circle from Adventures in Forgotten Realms. Really underrated set. I have pulled, you know, it's funny. When I started collecting 30 years ago, I was into collecting. I was into the lore of Magic. I'm into the flavor text on the cards, and I had 40 complete sets. And I've torn them all apart to build. That's actually not true. I still have a Double Masters set. I still have a Lord of the Rings set. I still have a Kamigawa set, one of my favorites of all time. I've still got a Streets of Capenna set. But anyway, I've torn apart all my other sets to create these 50 plus commander decks. And again, on this channel, I feature all those decks. But here's the deal. I know whether the set was good or not by how many cards I removed from it. And Adventures of Forgotten Realms, I have the Hobgoblin Bandit Lord. Like, I have removed so many cards from this set, it's not even funny. And this is one of them. This is the most expensive card I'm featuring today, $12. This is a must include for Ketramose, and it's the least budgety of all the budget cards. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to one target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. This card for 12 bucks, I think it's better than a lot of $30 or $40 cards you could put in this deck. So I just wanted to feature it. And again, those 5 cards, they add up to $35.56. And then these 10 are $12.87. So if you wanted all these 15 cards for your deck, you can get them for about 47 bucks. If you go over 50 with a lot of places, they'll give you free shipping. So there are 15 awesome cards that allow you to exile other things that play really, really nice with Ketramose. If you want to see all my decks, go to the show notes. I'll put a link to my profile on Moxfield. I've got I think I'm up to 53 decks right now. Some of them are under construction. Like they've got 97 cards, 98 cards. I'm trying to like rework a lot of them. I'm constantly tinkering, constantly playing. But all my decks are online for you to see. And you can take a look, you can learn. And that's the biggest part of Magic the Gathering that I want to say. By the way, I want to feature this currency converter again. But the biggest part of Magic the Gathering for me, the hardest part, is there are thousands of cards. Like a lot of people, if you watch this video, you're like, Egon God of Death, I forgot about that. Oh, Redemption Arc, I forgot about that. Abdel Adrian, I didn't know that existed. Parting Gust, I had no idea. That might be sitting in your commons box right now and useful for this deck. And that's the thing about Magic the Gathering. One thing that I love is watching videos online on how, like, what are some ideas I can do to build my decks? Because frankly, I'm running out of cards and I need more ideas. And I've got a bunch of giant boxes of commons and I've got a bunch of binders, but I forget about cards. And so I watch these videos for ideas. So hopefully today you learned a little bit about Ketramose, the new Dawn. Happy building. Do me a favor. I want some ideas on how to build this deck. All right. And part of it has to be on a budget because a lot of my cards are taken out. Listen, a guy only has so many Imperial Seals. A guy only has so many Demonic Tutors. I actually have 18 Demonic Tutors, but a lot of them are used in other decks. I only have so many Mox Diamonds. I only have so many cards I can put in my decks, right? But I do want to build a Ketramose, and I'm trying to do it with some extra cards I have laying around. So if you have any ideas, please put them in the comments for me. I would love to read them. I would love to interact with you. The best part of this community is the people. It's a place I truly feel at home, and I'm really proud and happy to be able to share my stuff with you. So thanks for coming by, and I will see you for the next episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering, where we talk about deck building, we talk about deck tech, we feature cards, we do openings, the podcast, everything for your Magic the Gathering needs.